It started with a phone call I almost didn't answer. A lawyer's voice, calm and professional, told me my father's estate was ready for transfer. I hadn't heard that name in years. My father. We were strangers long before he died. I learned early how to live without him, and he seemed perfectly fine pretending I didn't exist. Yet somehow, after all that silence, I was the one who inherited his house, a massive, crumbling Victorian structure on Hilford Street. When I saw it for the first time, it looked like time itself had abandoned it. Ivy crawling up the walls, windows fogged with grime, the roof sagging under years of neglect. The lawyer handed me one brass key and said, "Everything inside is yours, Mr. Doran. But there's one room you might not want to open." He wasn't joking. I could tell by the way he avoided looking at me after he said it. Inside, the air felt thick, like the place was holding its breath. Every step echoed down long hallways lined with portraits of people I didn't recognize. My father's handwriting was everywhere, on scattered notes, blueprints, and torn scraps of paper taped to walls. Then I found the door. It stood at the very end of the hallway. Newer wood, no dust. The handle was smooth, polished, locked. I tried the key. It didn't fit. That night, I tried to forget about it. I told myself I'd clean up, sell the place, and leave. But as I turned away, I noticed something strange. A faint, pale blue light leaking out from under the locked door. That's when the unease began. When darkness fell, the house started to move. The floor creaked. The windows moaned. I could swear I heard soft footsteps upstairs. Steady, deliberate, pacing just outside my room. By midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a crowbar from the garage and went back up the stairs. But when I reached the hallway, the light under the door was gone. The air was still, completely silent. I stood there for a long time, gripping the crowbar, trying to convince myself I wasn't afraid. But my hands were shaking. The next morning, I woke to the sound of static. The old radio in the corner, one I hadn't plugged in, was hissing. Then a faint voice broke through the noise. "Don't open it." My blood ran cold. I yanked the plug from the wall. The static stopped. The power went out. When I checked the fuse box, everything was normal. But when I came back upstairs, the radio was gone. Vanished. And then I saw them, small, muddy footprints on the carpet leading toward the locked door. They stopped right in front of it. Then I heard a whisper. "Evan." My name, spoken in my father's voice. I stumbled backward, my pulse pounding. It didn't make sense. He was dead. I searched the entire house after that. Every drawer, every box, every desk. I needed to understand what he had been doing here before he died. Most of the papers were meaningless equations, old journals, sketches that looked like blueprints for machines. But then I found something hidden inside a book, a cassette tape sealed in an old envelope. Written in my father's handwriting were the words, "For Evan, play only once." I found a tape player in his study, plugged it in, and hit play. At first, there was only static. Then his voice, older, fragile, tired. "Evan, if you're hearing this, I didn't finish it. I should have destroyed the room. Whatever you do, don't stay in that house at night." I froze. "Destroy what?" I pressed play again. His tone had changed, more desperate now. "It isn't a room, son. It's a gate. I thought I could bring your mother back. But I opened something I can't close." The tape screeched, warped, and cut to silence. I rewound it, nothing. The rest was blank. That night, the house felt different, heavier. Every breath I took echoed like I was underwater. And just before midnight, the blue light came back, brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. I should have left right then. But I couldn't. I had to know what he'd done. I jammed the crowbar under the lock, shoved hard until the hinge screamed, and with a final crack, the door burst open. A wave of cold air hit me. The room was nothing like the rest of the house. No dust, no cobwebs. Just metal and glass, strange devices, wires coiled across the floor. In the center of the room was something wrong. A shimmer in the air, like heat waves twisting above asphalt, bending everything around it. The hum grew louder. My chest tightened. And then, out of that distortion, a figure. A woman. She was faint, transparent, her form flickering between light and shadow. Her hand reached toward me. Evan. My breath caught in my throat. I knew that voice. It was my mother's. But she'd been dead for 15 years. The air turned colder. The lights flickered. Her face shifted. Calm one moment, in pain the next. Like she was trapped between two worlds. He shouldn't have done it. Evan. Close it. The hum turned into a roar. Sparks shot from the projector. The walls trembled. And before I could move, everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the hallway, my head pounding. The door behind me was shattered into pieces. But the entire room was gone. Just a blank wall where it had been. On the floor, written in chalk, were 3 words. Find the mirror. That was the moment I realized my father hadn't died naturally. He'd been trying to stop something. Something that was still here. And now it was waiting for me. The next morning, I woke up on the floor where I'd passed out. The chalk words were still there. Find the mirror. I stared at them until my vision blurred. Nothing about it made sense. There was no mirror in that room before. No explanation for how an entire doorway could just vanish overnight. But the message was written in my father's handwriting. I was sure of it. I searched the walls, the floor, the corners, looking for hidden compartments, switches, anything. Nothing. It was just gone. I needed air. I left the house, sat in my car, and watched the front door for nearly an hour. Every instinct told me to drive away and never come back. But that's not what I did. I drove to the only person who might have answers, my father's old friend, Marcus Hale. He was an engineer once, worked with my father before they both disappeared from the public eye. Marcus lived 30 miles away, in a rusted cabin surrounded by pine trees and silence. When he opened the door, the first thing he said was, "You shouldn't have gone to that house." I froze. "How did you?" He cut me off. "Because he told me you would. He said you'd go looking." He stepped aside and motioned me in. The place was cluttered. Papers stacked on every surface, machines half-built, old monitors glowing faintly with green code. Marcus sat across from me, eyes hollow. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in years. "What was he building, Marcus?" I asked. "What's the room?" He didn't answer right away. He poured himself a drink, his hand shaking. Then he said quietly, "Your father wasn't building a machine, Evan. He was building a bridge." "A bridge?" I repeated. He nodded. "A bridge between the living and the dead." I felt my stomach drop. "You mean he was trying to bring her back?" Marcus interrupted. "Yes. He thought if he could isolate memory frequency, he could project consciousness. But what he created wasn't her." He leaned closer. "It was something else. Something that learned how to use her image." I wanted to laugh, to call it insane. But I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen. "I saw her," I said quietly. "In that room. She spoke to me." Marcus slammed his glass down. "Then it's too late. It's found a voice." I stood up. "What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath, eyes darting to a locked drawer. He called it the mirror code. "That's what the message means. It's not a real mirror, it's a sequence. A reflection pattern in sound and light that links 2 frequencies. He used mirrors because they bend light. He thought if he could bend time the same way, he could reconnect what was lost." He opened the drawer and pulled out an old notebook, my father's. Pages of notes, sketches of devices I couldn't understand, diagrams that looked like gateways made of circles and light. Then Marcus pointed at one sentence scrawled near the top. "If the sequence completes, the gate remembers who opened it." "What does that mean?" I asked. He looked at me with genuine fear. "It means if it used your voice, it knows you now. It'll try to open again. Through you." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "This is insane," I said, stepping back. "You're telling me that thing in the room was alive?" Marcus didn't blink. "Not alive, just aware." When I left his cabin, the sky had turned gray. The wind howled through the trees like it was carrying whispers. For a second, I thought I heard my name again. Faint, distant. I drove faster. Back at the house, everything was darker than before. The power flickered every few seconds. The walls seemed to hum. I told myself it was just the wiring, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I went to the study, laid out the notebook, and began reading every line. My father had written about the reflection field, energy looping, voice triggers, and one phrase appeared again and again: the mirror sequence must be completed to seal the breach. Seal the breach. That meant it was still open. At exactly midnight, the sound started again. A low, vibrating tone that shook the floorboards. The same blue light began to seep from under the destroyed doorway, except the door wasn't there anymore. The light was coming from the wall itself. I pressed my hand against the plaster. It was warm. A faint hum vibrated through it, like something was alive inside. Then my father's voice echoed from behind me. "Don't touch it, Evan." I turned instantly. No one was there, but I heard footsteps on the stairs. Slow, heavy, coming closer. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. I grabbed the crowbar again, my heart pounding. The sound stopped halfway down the hall. Then a voice whispered, not from behind me, but from inside the wall. "You opened it. Now finish it." The lights burst. The hum turned into a roar. I stumbled back as cracks spread across the plaster, glowing with that same blue light. And then the wall collapsed. Behind it was the same room I had seen before, only this time it wasn't flickering or half-real. It was solid. Machines everywhere, glowing symbols on the floor, and in the center, the mirror. It wasn't glass. It was liquid, a smooth, rippling surface that reflected everything but me. I stepped closer. The air felt electric. And then I heard her voice again. My mother's. "Evan, please help me." Her reflection appeared in the mirror, eyes full of tears. But something was wrong. The longer I looked, the less she looked like her. Her features started shifting. Her smile too wide, her eyes too dark. "Come closer," she whispered. "You can save me." I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to run. And then, behind her reflection, I saw him, my father. He looked terrified. He was shaking his head. "Don't listen to it," he yelled. "That's not her." The mirror started vibrating violently. The floor cracked. Objects flew across the room. And for a split second, I saw something else inside. Hundreds of faces, all screaming silently, trapped beneath the surface. I staggered backward as the mirror pulsed like a heartbeat. It wasn't showing me a reflection anymore. It was showing me what was inside. And then it spoke again, in a voice that was both my mother's and something else entirely. "You opened the gate. You belong to it now." The mirror exploded in a burst of light. Glass, or whatever it was, scattered everywhere and everything went silent. When the light faded, the room was empty again. The mirror was gone. Only one thing remained on the floor. A piece of paper, burned at the edges, with my father's handwriting on it. It said, "You can't destroy it, Evan. You can only contain it. It will use your voice next." I stared at the note until the words started to blur. And then I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. A whisper, coming from the tape player behind me. My own voice, repeating the same words my father once said. "Don't stay in that house at night." For hours I sat there in the dark, listening to the tape loop my own voice again and again. Each time it played, the tone shifted slightly, deeper, distorted, like something else was learning how to mimic me. The power in the house flickered every few minutes. Shadows stretched across the floor in impossible angles. Every sound seemed amplified. The creak of the wood, the hum of the air, even my own heartbeat. I wanted to run, but the moment I reached for the door, it slammed shut on its own. The notebook still lay open on the desk. And now, a new line had appeared on the last page, written in fresh ink that shimmered faintly in the dark. "Containment begins where memory ends." I whispered the words aloud without knowing why, and the tape recorder stopped instantly. Silence. Then, a mechanical click, the same kind you hear before a recording starts. The red light turned on by itself. My own voice came through again. Only this time it wasn't repeating the warning. It was speaking new words, words I hadn't said. "She's waiting for you downstairs." I felt the blood drain from my face. Slowly, I turned toward the hallway. The staircase was barely visible, but I could see a faint glow coming from below. Something inside me, curiosity, fear, or both, forced my feet to move. Each step groaned beneath my weight. Halfway down, I heard the sound of music, an old piano playing a familiar tune. My mother used to play that song when I was a child. The melody was soft, but now it sounded wrong. Slightly off-key, like it was being played by someone who had forgotten how human hands should move. At the bottom of the stairs, the air was colder. The glow came from the living room, a soft blue light, the same color as the mirror's pulse. And there she was, sitting at the piano, her back to me, hair cascading down just like I remembered. She played slowly, deliberately, each note echoing through the house like a heartbeat. "Mom!" I whispered. She stopped playing, but she didn't turn around. Instead, she spoke, and her voice trembled, as if fighting to stay steady. "Evan, you shouldn't have come back." I took a cautious step closer. "What is this? What's happening to me?" She didn't answer. Her hands hovered over the keys, frozen in place. Then she said something that shattered the last bit of calm I had left. "Your father didn't die in that storm. He stayed, to keep it sealed, until you opened it again." I shook my head, heart pounding. "No, I saw his body. They buried him." Her voice changed, lower, rougher, layered with something else. "They buried what it wanted them to find." She stood slowly and turned toward me, and that's when I saw it, her face shifting between hers and mine, like two reflections colliding. I stumbled back. "You're not her," smiled, eyes black as oil. "But you wanted me to be." The house began to tremble. Light bled through the walls again, and behind the creature, where the piano had been, a circle of symbols started to glow on the floor. The same ones from my father's notebook. The mirror sequence. I understood now. It wasn't a mirror. It was a containment field, and it was breaking. The entity stepped closer. Its voice split in two, one my mother's, one my own. "You can't stop it, Evan. You are the gate." Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the notebook, tore out the last page, and read every word of the sequence aloud. The air roared. The walls cracked. The creature screamed, not in pain but in fury. "Containment begins where memory ends." I shouted the phrase again, louder this time. The light intensified until it was blinding. The symbols on the floor flared to life, forming a perfect circle around us both. The entity lunged forward, but the moment it crossed the line, it froze mid-air, trapped in a cage of light and sound. Its face flickered between thousands of forms, all screaming silently. Then it spoke one last time, its voice echoing from everywhere at once. "You think this saves you? The gate only closes when you forget who you are." The light exploded outward. When I opened my eyes, the house was quiet. The symbols were gone. The mirror gone. The piano gone. Everything looked exactly as it did before the night began. I walked outside. The morning sun was breaking through the fog. For a moment, I almost believed it was over. But when I reached my car and looked at my reflection in the window, it didn't move the same way I did. I lifted my hand. It hesitated. Then it smiled before I did. I slammed my eyes shut and looked away, breathing hard. When I looked back, the reflection was normal again. At least, I thought it was. Back in the driver's seat, I noticed something on the passenger side. The notebook. Except now it was closed, and a single new line was written across the cover in my father's handwriting. "Sequence incomplete." I threw it onto the seat beside me, started the engine, and drove. But no matter how far I went, the rearview mirror wouldn't stay still. Sometimes it showed the road behind me. Other times, it showed her, watching, waiting. And when the static came back on the radio, I heard my own voice again. "Containment begins where memory ends." Then silence. For the first time, I realized the truth. It wasn't just his creation. It was mine too, because every time I remembered them, The gate opened just a little more, so I stopped recording, stopped speaking about it, stopped thinking about it. But sometimes, when I wake up at night, I hear her playing that song again. The melody echoes through the walls like it never left. And when I pass by a mirror, I never look too long, because I'm afraid of what might still be looking back.